Welcome to Every Step podcast. I'm Christina Weston.
And I'm Judith Beck.
Every Step is the podcast where career and life meet.
With a new guest every episode, we explore the gutsy issues affecting everyone in the workplace.
In this episode of Every Step, we are joined by Lisa Barron, Australian fashion designer who this year celebrates 40 years in business. We chat about what it takes to have longevity in business. You are now listening to part 2 of our conversation with Lisa Barron, and we're going to jump right in where we left off.
So how do you manage your sort of stress levels, or what do you do to keep yourself,
Sane.
Sane. I mean, really, because that is different than selling a service where you're selling the same thing for 10 years or whatever. You're really changing it up every single season.
Oh, look, I think it's contradictory in a way, because I think being creative and being organized don't normally go hand in hand, but you just have to. Being organized is the biggest stress relief, knowing that you've got time. When I'm running behind schedule, the collection's not coming together, I've got only a window to sell to the boutiques I sell to, otherwise they'll spend their budget with other brands. That's stressful. So I think I've just come to know when times are stressful, get ready for it. My team are great. That's what I value, long-term employees. They get to know it and they're part of it and they thrive on it and love it. So I really think being organized. And as far as anything, I used to ride horses. That was great, because horse riding is so far from the fashion world. Horse people are so down to earth and so fabulous. So that would be something I would do to kind of, find that stress release. But I just think interacting with people, one of my favorite things is to fill my table with a bunch of great people and talk about life and art and stuff, some good gritty conversations, and that happens when you're around people you trust and are with. So I just think that social engagement as well as work has become more and more important to me. I mean, I've certainly done my years of fully focused on work and, feeling like everything else is being put to the side. But, I just think trying to have that balanced and happy life. And really, I'm only making dresses. I'm not in a hospital emergency department. It's not that serious. So, I think we all say that to ourselves, but, you've got people depending on you.
Because handling stress is like, the stress in my business was more about making a placement, or if someone was going to accept an offer, or, or there was a downturn, or we lost, a client would say, oh, it's the GFC, we've decided not to go ahead with those 10 positions. And I'm an internalizer, so I handle the stresses internal. I don't sort of go out. But what would happen, this is honest to God truth, what would happen is if there was a high stress time in the office, like let's say something like a client says, oh, we can't go down that track. By the end of the day, my hair turned gray right down the middle.
Oh, no.
And my consultants, well, my ex, FRG is not going anymore, but my ex-consultants would verify it, because they'd crack up. They'd go, oh my God, what's wrong with your, and I have this, because internally I was stressing and it affected my hair. And that always made me think about the relationship between how we handle stress in our running our businesses and what else is going on in there. So,
it's all connected. It's all connected. So the fact that, Lisa, you're talking about balance, and more of the guests that we've had on this program, we're all talking about balance. I think that's more of a theme that's coming through, that we're not wired to work, 15, 16-hour days. We're just not. You may think you're working, but you're kidding yourself. You only got maybe four hours of real productive, focused time. So it's, it's brilliant to hear more people talking about, well, I get out, I do other things, I go ride horses, I go for a run, I catch up with friends. And that's often where the creativity happens too. It happens when you're not there doing your thing, when you're actually out and somebody says something or you see something and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got an idea.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think that, one of the rules we always had was I didn't want to work on the weekend. I mean, I'm not in retail, so we didn't have that. I didn't have to have the business open on the weekend. And I would always sort of go down that track that if you're in the office past 6 o'clock, I'm worried about your productivity. What is keeping you in the office? Because I don't want you there and I don't want you to have to work on weekends. And that was always a thing of reevaluation, so that, of course, we had periods where there was high volume and things, but just generally that this is what you should be going home and be with your families or doing whatever it is that you want to do. And you shouldn't be doing that, because if you are, what's keeping them? And I always had this exercise where I'd say to consultants, okay, I want you to, this is for you. I don't want to see it. It's for your own benefit. I want you to, from the moment you get into the office, write down what it is that you're doing. Look at it. Coffee at 5. Do this, and do it for a week. I said, because if you do that for a week, you will see where the time wasters are and where the flow is. And I remember one time I did it. I knew exactly where my time wasters were. It would be virtually with one particular consultant that had coming in asking me questions every time. So what I did was then I said, okay, we're going to have, I want all your questions. We'll have a meeting once a week, so to get, rather than you coming in and asking me different things. But you got to have that, downtime with if you take your work home to your family or to whoever you have at home or whatever, you're going to burn out. That's one thing.
And as a business owner, it's really hard to have that separation. My husband and I talk about work-life integration, not work-life kind of separation, because there is no work-life separation. Our business is our lives and our lives are our business. And that's really challenging as a founder, because you do live and breathe it. And you don't walk out the door and, turn off the light and kind of go home to the kids and the dogs and whatever else. It's not like that. You carry it with you all the time, because it's your money and your time, and there's no salary coming in. It's all up to you.
Yeah. And I think what you both described there, and for founders to know, and sadly we don't see it in a lot of, CEOs, it's either bred out of them or they didn't have it to begin with, but empathy, and to be able to look at it from another perspective of how would I feel, how would I want to do it, and not as the owner of the business. Yes, it is your money, yes, it is your dream, your business, it's not theirs, even though they will, good staff, behave as if it is, and that's what I value and love. But it's having that empathy and really understanding another perspective. And I don't think that happens enough. And I think in some of the kind of, ladder climbing that happens, that skill is lost. And I think it's so important. And it comes down to clients as well. You really, if you can't see it from the client perspective and your employee's perspective, I don't think you're doing a good job as being a leader or a founder of a business without understanding how everyone else is feeling and what would you do. And, I'm really strict too about not having overtime. I mean, we have fashion shows and things like that, and I have to drag them along front row and stuff like that. So they'll, do that. But yeah, I feel the same way, Judith, that if you can't get your job done within the time frame that is allocated, then there's either something wrong, the job's too big and we need someone else, or they're inefficient. And if they're inefficient, well, they can go. So that's where you can be the tough boss. But expecting people, when I see a lot of my clients in law firms and finance, I can't believe the hours they work. And I want to say to them, you're such smart women. What are you doing? But that's just the way the culture has been developed. But hopefully it's shifting. Hopefully it's moving back to, a little more reasonable, because it's kind of not human.
It's not human. You're absolutely right. It's not human.
And the thing, I've advised a lot of women, primarily over the years, that, you know, if you are being overworked, you know, you feel you've got to go to your boss and go, this is what I've been doing, this is why, and this is kind of like that exercise. I'm not wasting any time. I've just got too much work.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose of that exercise. And they, you know, consultants would come back and I'd go, well, what did you find? And oh yeah, I know exactly where. And sometimes it was a client that was taking up too much of their time, and that was like unnecessarily, and it could be, this client is doing this and I need some help with that, which is fine. But I'd also say to new founders, especially if they're whether it's service or retail, really, is you need to like your clients. Like, you need to, don't work with clients that don't align with your values, or they are going to be over time wasters. Like, they expect everything, but they don't want to pay anything. So that's part of valuing your offering and value. You know, I remember during the any dip, clients would go, can you reduce that? Can you reduce your rates? Because immediately they'd be thinking, oh, there's a low time, so you could reduce. And because my rates were always mid-level, I would always go, well, what part of the process do you want me to cut out? Maybe we don't do the reference checking, or maybe the interviewing we cut out, right? Because I knew if I reduced my rates, it's very hard to get them back up again when things improve. And then I was more like, well, why? I'm not providing a lesser service.
It's common, and I feel it's so devaluing to the person. And you know, you can imagine in retail, you know, there's a lot of, is this on discount? No, this year, this week I'd like my full wage, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
You know, do you mind? So, you know, there's ways of getting around those kind of cheeky questions, you know, and most people are not willing to take a discount on their income for that week. Well, nor am I. Or I say, don't you think it's worth it? You know, and you know, you can pop down to one of those department stores. I'm sure you'll find something on sale. You know, it's yeah, you've just got to have pride and, you know, value yourself to be able to respond as you have. You know, but that's out there, but it's not a main part of the world. But yeah, I do have a bit of a chuckle to myself when someone asks me to discount, because they don't realize the implications of that and what that means. So hopefully the listeners here will not ask someone to reduce their income next time they're in a shop or in a service provider.
And don't buy your business. Like, in other words, in the beginning of your business, don't think that you have to buy the business, because in my industry in recruitment, there'd be a lot of companies out there where the consultants would, you know, I would take a potential client to lunch, spend a lot of money on big lunches and everything else before they even got a dime. Yeah. And I used to say to my consultants, you're not taking anybody to lunch until they give you the business. If they give you the business and you want to take them as a thank you for their custom, fair enough. But most of those times, 90% of those people that you're taking the lunch will not give you business. You will be wasting your time giving them and going out and having that. And now that's one thing, buying the business, bad idea.
But we never done. It still happens. It still happens. I watch it happening.
A lot of companies are wasting a lot of money by doing that. Because back your product or your service and say you're buying the best. And as a result, and the other thing is not giving discounts to, because once you start giving discounts to friends and family, or because everybody's a friend and family really at the end of the day sometimes, you know, so you start making connections in business, and then you may become friends with them, and then the expectations will be, well, you're going to give me a discount. Well, no, I'm not going to give you a discount. What I am going to give you is a really good service at a really good price, because the minute you do that, especially in a service environment, and then someone else hears that you gave it for cheaper, it's going to damage your brand.
Oh, that's so true. And it's kind of nice to hear it in the service industry, because it's the same for me. I've never relied on discount. I will have sale if I've got genuine product that's left over that I need to move. But there's some product I wouldn't put on sale, because I know that it's going to sell eventually, and it's not about its price. It's about who needs that that garment or who needs that dress. But yeah, it is amazing if you do have that philosophy of discounting. I've had women say to me, Lisa's a very good friend of mine and she always gives me a discount, and they're saying it to me, and I'm Lisa. Not a friend of mine. You know, it is amazing.
That's really funny.
Expectation of people. So yeah, I think holding that value, and my client base, I do feel I'm in a wonderful niche market of smart women, and all genders really. I dress a variety of genders, but smart women who, you know the value of something, and so that what they want, they're getting what they want, a well-made, beautiful garment that's going to reflect their personality, that's going to make them feel great when they walk into a boardroom or a presentation or an event. That's what they know they are getting. How can you discount that? You know,
Wow.
it's so yeah, having that value and integrity of your belief in yourself.
Well, now you can say to them, if they ask you for a discount, you can say, well, do you want me to take the sleeves off?
Yes. I love that. Yeah. Well, then I have to charge them for the alteration fee.
We'll do it without a zipper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think it's easier to start a business now or harder?
Oh, look, I've been pondering that. It's both. It's both, and it depends on the business. I think it's easier in some ways. There's more avenues to sell. Your competition is actually less visible because a lot of business, you know, even research, even if people don't shop online, all researching, whether it's for a service or for a product, is all done online. So you have to be able to be visible online. So that can be quite easy. I think it's harder in some ways because now you have to know your niche much better, because you have to be more targeted. You know, it was harder previously because to have a product, you needed to have bricks and mortar, and that was expensive. These days, you don't need to be investing in bricks and mortar. If you've got a great product that can sell online, it's much easier to get it out in the marketplace. But then again, bricks and mortar, I call my shop, you know, it's a magazine page. I'm paying high rent, but everyone who drives down High Street, Armidale, can see my magazine page, my window. So, you know, I've got kind of advertising going to thousands and thousands of people every day. So that's a really important part of the real estate of the shop, is that market. And so passerbys is still a really big part of the business. And so I think it's both. You know, I think it's harder these days to build that loyal, long customer faithfulness. I feel over 40 years I've built that, which is, you know, will hold me in good stead for a long time. That's harder to do these days because you're not getting that personal connection as much, because a lot more business is done online and more research is done online. So I think it's both. You know,
you got to take the good from that. You've got to grab what works and what does. One of the things that I love, and I was telling Christine about it earlier, that during the GFC, you were doing the online fashion shows. That was so cool. That was really good. I love that.
That was great. And we now have kept that going. So it was a good friend of mine who said, why don't we do it? I've got lots of friends. We'll bring them all on. You can stand there and chat to them and they can buy. So we did several of those, and it was fantastic. And even to this day, I do online Zoom shows for people. I have a beautiful, very, very special client. She'll get sick of me mentioning her all the time, but she's an astronaut and she lives in the States and is now, you know, working at NASA, doing an incredible job. But she'll call me and say, I've got dinner with Bud and I've got this, I've got that on, I've got nothing to wear, no idea. So we'll go on the Zoom show. I'll show her all the new collection and she'll go, yep. And I know her and I know her shape and I know what works for her. So she'll buy. So, you know, what came out of COVID, some of those practices have really become a part of the, you know, our offerings as a business.
Yeah, being able to do Zoom shows, it's a way of building your community as well. If they're coming to you online, it's another connection point for you to build that community and that brand loyalty.
Yes. So it's really opened it up. So we're seeing a lot more global interaction. You know, I've got connections with women's organizations around the world, and, you know, we've grown our our client base more globally without having to increase our bricks and mortar footprint, which is great. I'd never give that up. I think it's a really important part of the brand, but integrating both avenues of online and bricks and mortar is wonderful.
Because really the customer service aspect is just changing from the person coming into the online experience, and once they order something, getting that item to them being able to exchange it or send it back if it doesn't fit correctly, those types of things, because that's where the reviews come online, isn't it? That's where I mean, this review thing, because when you think about it, you see some, we laugh because my husband and I they'll on Netflix, there'll be a movie and we'll go, okay, let's look it up, and it will say Rotten Tomatoes 70% and IMDb something, and it is the worst movie in the whole world. And so we think, is this one of those bots where they give reviews, or is it?
Yeah.
So
again, I probably don't rely on them too much. My marketing department, which is one fabulous girl, she is very focused on them. But again, it's a bit like, I just do my job, do what I can well. I see the happy faces. To me, that's the review. I get the thank yous personally on an email. I get the photo of the event or etc. That to me is the review. But I know they are important, and I should be more focused on.
Well, but you've got an established business of 40 years and a reputation and everything. So things like those reviews, your customers love you and they're going to come to you regardless of, some troll or something, put something on. But someone starting a new business, in their first year, if all of a sudden they're getting the company, you hear about competitors putting bad reviews on the competition and those types of things. I would hate to have to deal with that these days. That would be a tough thing to have. But that's some of the things that the new people coming in and starting businesses, they've really got to be aware of those kind of things, don't they? And really be on top of it. Their social media.
Yeah, I would imagine. Absolutely. And there is a lot you can do with it, so much. And that's what's exciting about business these days. It's a little bit like that whole idea of, you do a little bit, if it works, do more of it. If it doesn't, do something else. So, I think there's a lot of avenues that businesses can have a go at, see how it works, even your product line. If it works, do a little bit more. I learned that probably when I started. I wanted to make evening dresses with splits up to the thigh and, plunging necklines and ready for the red carpet. And that didn't sell. Maybe if I lower the split and maybe put a little cap sleeve on it, maybe if I did this, it all sold. So it really is being aware in that trial and error. And, I see people putting so much money and effort into social media, and really it's spreading wide. You might have 100,000 followers, but what's it converting to sales? Yes. And that's, it might hold me back having that philosophy sometimes, but I also, I need to see a return for the effort, and that doesn't always happen.
I think one of the things too that I would say to someone coming in and running a new business is test it with people that as well, and get their views, and accept the negative, because sometimes people don't want to hear.
Just be careful though. Sometimes your friends are going to tell you not what you want to hear. They're going to humor you and say, "Oh, it's amazing, amazing," because they don't actually want to lose the friendship. So
no, you want a whole big range of people. But I always thought that get the negative, get the most negative people that in that focus group, that they're the ones that will tell you whether or not they don't like some, or if you thought about this. Because even if you're passionate and you still want to go ahead with the business, at least then you've got some perspective of what others are thinking, and you can alter or change things or whatever. But don't disregard, accept. I remember when I was running Financial Executive Women years ago, every year we'd have a focus group in Sydney where we'd ask the clients and some of the members to come in, and the view was, rip this apart, rip it apart. What do you like about the website? What don't you like about the website? And be prepared to take on their critique, because I never see it as criticism. I see it, I'm asking for it. I want the critique, and then go. And a lot of great things came out of those kind of things. So the more you can, fresh eye type people, as well as your friends and family, but fresh eye people are the most important to get. What do you think about this?
Yes. To do it before it hits the marketplace. Like, I feel like I have that every day when women come through the shop. They either love it or hate it. They don't hold back if they don't like it or it's not what they want. So you're kind of being under scrutiny all the time when your product is out there. And I think being a fashion designer, I also liken it to, being an artist, and I'm putting my work on show, and I take it personally sometimes, not often, because I've become resilient to it, but, people can be quite honest, and it's hard to take because that's my work. They're my babies,
That is an art piece. Every piece is an art piece.
Yeah, so that's how I see it.
It's a lot different than just a product or a service. You're, like you said, it's on show every day, and you've got to go, what do you mean?
Yeah. And I take it on board, and I realize, I've learned so much. I think that's the main reason why I'm still in business, is because I have listened to the clients. And, everything they say goes into my brain and out on the page when I'm sketching, whatever idea it is, whatever color they think they want, or, neckline or whatever, has all been filtered through and come out in some form if I feel that that's what's, needed out in the marketplace. And that to me is really important. It's not about me designing what I want and what I think they should wear. It's a combination of knowing, what they want, but then how I interpret that and give it a style or my brand style that they aspire to. So it really is a partnership.
And you probably have been in a situation, I'm just guessing, that, where someone has said something about an item and you've tweaked it.
All the time.
And it's like, okay, like you said, the slit goes down lower, and because people have said, oh, I like that, but it's not going to look, it's too high, and it's not, it's not modest enough or whatever. So, and that's a really good thing in every business. Going, just because you're the founder or the owner, don't stop listening to your staff, to people who are coming into your business, because often they will have really good ideas, and it might just be a matter of tweaking what you already have to make it the perfect item or the perfect service or whatever. So I think that is one of the things that you said, and I have to read this because I love this saying: if you make a mistake on your own dime, there is a very good chance you will never make that mistake again. I love that. It's so true.
And I think that came about, I've never worked for anybody else. People can't kind of understand that, but so that's why so much of what I do, I think, is unique, because I started out by myself, with my own money. And I really, in retrospect, maybe should have gone and worked for another designer for a couple of years to learn a few things, make those mistakes on their money. But I didn't. So I kind of learned the hard way the whole way through, and through the 80s, there were all the, tariff situations, wharf strikes, my fabric stuck on wharves, couldn't deliver. Me phoning parliamentarians, getting a direct line back through then saying, hi, I'm Lisa, I'm a young designer from Melbourne, where's my fabric? And I remember Senator John Button having to deal with me on the phone. I don't know how I got through, but again, that was that oblivionism that just led me to, oh, I'm going to do something about this, so who do I call? And, I think, a lot of my ideas are probably unique, maybe not the best, but they've come about from my own mistakes and journey, and I'm okay with that.
Well, that, what you said, it, a mistake is just another part of the journey to getting the best end result. So if you don't make mistakes, the way I look at it, if you haven't made a lot of mistakes, you're probably not doing enough.
Our word is flurnings, learning from failure. We love our flurnings. Like we've learnt to kind of put a positive spin on it, not beat ourselves up about the mistake or the error. It's what can we learn from this? What's the learning? What's the growth opportunity in this for us?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, girls, we could talk for a long time about what founders do, but we're probably getting to that time. We've gone way over time, which I love, because we really could just talk about this. I want to just ask you guys in 1 minute to sum up, if you were advising a young person who wants to start a business, what do you think is the most important thing or things they should do to ensure a greater chance of success? I'm going to start with Lisa.
Oh, I had a few points here, but a lot of them we've touched upon, so I'll just go quickly with them. You know, getting honest feedback, knowing that your product has a place in the world. Make sure you have enough dollars to get you through, to get you started, and kind of know that you will enjoy the ride, the good and the bad, successful and challenging, because that it will be those things, and you'll need to be able to roll with it and go with it. And I hope we are preparing our next generations to be able to roll with not only the good, but the tough times too, because that's inevitable if you choose to start a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Christina?
Agree with all that Lisa has said. My advice is get a coach, find someone who's trodden that path before, or someone that you can go to get advice and be a sounding board. Be prepared. It will take longer than you think. It will cost more than you think, way more. It'll be, you know, you'll be a 10-year overnight success. You know, that we all say, oh my goodness, you've been a success so quickly. It's like, no, I'm a 10 or 15-year overnight success. And what was the other thing? The other thing is more about the emotional stuff, is be prepared. It's going to test you. It's going to grow you. Be open to the personal growth opportunity, because it is going to be emotionally tougher than you've ever thought, and stuff will come up that you did not expect and you were not prepared for. So yeah, just get ready for the roller coaster.
You know, all that is absolutely, I just have one thing I would add to that. And I would say that as someone who's thinking about starting a business, sometimes there's this perception that I'm going to leave corporate life and I'm going to start my own business because I don't want to report to anyone, and I want to be the master of my own destiny. Well, reality check is that you go into your own business and you do answer to people. You answer to your customers. You answer to your employees. Once you get employees, I mean, you're answering to them, because you know they're going to set the tone. So you're answering to so many different people. So maybe the employer-employee thing where you answer to employer is gone, but you are answering to your clients, and a lot of times that can be frustrating. You've got to be able to take a breath and sometimes, you know, sort of look at it.
Your tongue. For me, it's sometimes I have to bite my tongue.
Sometimes you might have to bite your tongue. Hey, I think we've all had to bite our tongue.
Yes.
Especially in the early days where you kind of go, oh, and that's the other thing I would say. In the early days, when you're pricing yourself, you don't have that track record. So I'll give you an example. My business was a retained business. From, you know, they paid a retainer up front, in the middle, and at the end. But in the early days, the first 3 years, when no one knew who I was or anything like that, I couldn't just all of a sudden go, you got to pay me a retainer. So to get the business, with some of these companies that had clients that were long-term clients and they were dealing with them, I'd say, give me a go. I'll do it on a contingency. You'll see how good we are. And then you'll want to deal with this forever. Basically, you know, I would take that tack. Like, you got nothing to lose. Let me find the person for you. So sometimes you've got to put more time and energy into your process to get the client, to be able to prove yourself, to warrant retainers. And so I did that the first 3 years. And then after that, it was all retainer, which was good. So I hope that people who are listening got a lot of great tips out of this. And Lisa, like I said, we could talk to you forever, and we really we really enjoyed. And I recommend everybody go to the Armadale shop.
Thank you.
Go online for our international listeners. Go online.
And online, exactly. Because I personally have several Lisa Barron pieces that I love. And I remember buying my first, which was literally like 20 years ago. And I still have it.
Oh,
And it's as relevant today and classy, and I love it. And so I recommend everybody going there. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to speak with Christina and I.
absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Great show.
For more information about Every Step and our guests, head to everysteppodcast.com. To be notified of new podcasts, please subscribe via your favourite listening platform. And of course, follow us on social media and direct message us to share your ideas about guests or topics.